and I can't help, as we speak this evening on the Employment Relations Pay Deductions for Partial Strikes Amendment Bill, to listen to the irony that's coming from the other side of the House. On the one hand, they want us to create employment relationships here in New Zealand that are fair and reasonable. But on the other hand, if we make a change that is fundamentally about fairness to both parties, they're worried about people going to places like Australia. Well, I want to remind, Mr. Speaker, the Speaker from the Green Party who spoke, Te Ano, who spoke about them getting out of New Zealand and heading off to Australia. Well, it's interesting, Mr. Speaker, if we go to the regulatory impact statement on this bill, it says in clause 32, Mr. Speaker, that enabling employers to make partial payments or pay deductions in response to partial strikes would be consistent, Mr. Speaker, would be consistent with the approach in Australia from 2009. Mr. Speaker, the Australians didn't repeal this in 2018 like some government that wanted to take New Zealand backwards that happened to be in these seats then. And it goes on, Mr. Speaker, to say, and the United Kingdom, in case law from the 1980s. Mr. Speaker, the opposition want to argue this concept of fairness. And when it's not fair in their eyes, because they have a one-eyed view of fairness. They think fairness all relates to one party in a relationship, Mr. Speaker. They don't understand the concept that fairness is about both parties coming to a table and determining a relationship that works and is appropriate for both parties. But if it's not fair in their eyes, Mr. Speaker, send them off to Australia, send them off to the UK. But actually, they'll just find that not only are the rules the same over there, or very similar, but they're going to those places, or they're looking to go to those places, Mr. Speaker, because they're more productive. And unlike the view of Te Pāti Māori, which thinks that productivity is all about shareholders making money, productivity fundamentally, Mr. Speaker, is about these workers earning money at a value for the roles that they play. Now, it didn't fall on deaf ears, Mr. Speaker. It did not fall on deaf ears. When Te Pāti Māori referred to the work that is being done, that these employees are partially striking from, as being the bits and pieces. Now, I don't know about you, Cameron Brewer in Upper Harbour, or Mike Buttrick there in Wairarapa, but I reckon the teachers in Whanganui, the nurses in Whanganui, the doctors in Whanganui, the police in Stratford, the tradies in Hawera, the MRI operators at Whanganui Hospital, the kindergarten teachers, the bus drivers, even here in this precinct, the parliamentary services staff, would be offended by their work being referred to as the bits and pieces. I think the opposition needs a dose of realism as we come to Christmas, needs a dose of realism when it thinks about the relationship between employees and employers, because fundamentally the relationship has to be based on fairness. And so this legislation, Mr. Speaker, is going to rebalance it. It's going to ensure that, as we had prior to 2018, a relationship that recognised if you did a good day's work, you got a good day's pay. But if you choose not to do a good day's work, Mr. Speaker, if you choose not to help the health sector deliver, if you choose not to help your employer earn some money, then there's going to be no money to pay you, Mr. Speaker. Both the state, who employs people, this economy, the crowd here has to be financial, and that's why we've been making the changes that we have, but companies need to be as well. Money just doesn't materialise out of thin air. You can't just appropriate it, Mr. Speaker. And so we need to ensure that our employment laws here are consistent with those around the world as we build a nation of productivity that can pay the sort of incomes that these people deserve.
Oh, we need to pay workers 10% less. We have to.
We can't just make deductions.
Like, do we have to talk about Australia again? The fact that this bill actually puts us in a worse position than what Australia's currently got. It's like, hey, guys, we listened. We're going to be just like Australia. Australia 2009. It's like, no, we want to be more progressive.
It was actually legal until about approximately 2009 that they could do deductions without notice.
This is what I don't get it. Yeah. It's like, look, we want to be more progressive than Australia when it comes to work relations, because that's how we get the talent to come here and stay here. Because at the moment, the talent's coming here and then they're buggering off to Australia because it's better. Okay.
Yeah, it's like the whole Democrat-Republican thing. It's going on there, going, hey, we're only 90% shit, so vote for us instead of the 100% shit. And guess what? Look what happened at the last election. They voted for shit. Because shit light wasn't that much better.
Again, just to state what I said before about Australia. In Australia, let me just grab my notes. In Australia, the reduction in payment is communicated with the employee. Under this bill, it doesn't have to be. In Australia, they are given a written notice stating that because of the partial work ban, the employee's payments will be reduced by the proportion specified in the notice. Okay, that's not a requirement here in New Zealand under this bill. Okay,
yeah,
under this bill,
You're on a partial strike for 1 hour out of 40 in a week. Let's take 10% off or 4 hours deduction of pay off you for it. When reality land is, it should be, if there was a deduction, it should be 10% of 1 hour.
Do you want to hear what the provisions are for this bill? I'll go down them.
Go.
An employer can deduct pay when an employee is working at full capacity and workload has not reduced. The next one, a 10% pay reduction can be effected in such situations without justification. The next one, a worker can be paid less than the minimum wage while undertaking a full output of work. The employer does not have to inform the employee of the amount that will be deducted until the deduction takes place. This bill is worse than what they have in Australia. This is why people are going to Australia. It's going to be one of the reasons.
About fair process.
There's nothing fair about this.
Where's the consequences when it's abused? Oh,
I don't know.
Because we only think about consequences being one way, not a two-way street.
Remember the other bill that Nationals arguing for, how people can't go to the police if they're being abused because they're being underpaid?
Yeah, exactly. This could bring in wage theft.
Yeah.
Legalise wage theft.
Basically, that's what this bill is. It's legalised wage theft.
Yeah, legalise wage theft without justification and to be a slobby, snub, par.